Hello there guys, and welcome to a different type of review today on my channel. As you can see, we're taking a proper beast out for a ride today in the shape of the BMW X6 M Competition. If you're a BMW fan, you will probably know how to figure out whether a BMW X6 is an M car just by looking at it. So up front you'll notice the M kidney grille with double slats. In this case it's also blacked out because this is a competition model, and competition models get black accents around the grille. And of course you can also see the M badge, but if that doesn't work, you can take a look at the front bumper, which has huge air intakes on the sides to cool off that massive V8 engine under the hood. You can actually hear the cooling system working right now. I didn't drive the car too fast, it's just really hot out, and the car needs to cool down, and developing so much power requires a lot of cooling. Gonna open the hood to show you the engine. It's the 4.4 liter twin turbo V8. You can also find on the M5 competition models and the M8 competition models, and in this case it has a carbon fiber engine cover, a new option introduced by BMW for the M models this year, which costs around 1,300 euros. Our tester is wearing marina blue color on the outside. It also has laser lights and blacked out wheels measuring 21 inches. These are offered as standard on the competition model, and you can also notice the massive braking power under those wheels. It actually looks really nice. Another detail you can find on M models, on BMW X6 models, is that side grille, of course the M side mirrors, and if we go around the back you will also notice the X6 M badge, an additional boot lid lip over here, also done in black, a massive air diffuser, and of course the 4 tailpipes, which are real, thank God. This is a massive car and it's incredibly nice to drive. On the back axle here, you'll notice that the wheels measure 22 inches and the tires measure 315 30 ZR22s, so they are pretty huge. Looking inside, you can also see this car has been configured in a white and black design. This is merino leather, one of the best in the biz, and I really like this quilted design over here and over here on the seats. We also have carbon fiber trims. They're also about 1,300 euros as an option. This thing looks absolutely brilliant, and I love these seats. They look great, and the X6 M badges are illuminated, so they turn on whenever you unlock the car. Let's hop inside. So this is what the BMW X6 M looks like inside. We have the M steering wheel, which is different compared to a regular M model. Compared to a regular M Sport steering wheel, you can tell it's different by this element here. On normal M Sport wheels, this is blocked out, it doesn't have this space over here, and we also have the M1 and the M2 buttons. Now these two buttons can be configured, just as I told you in the M5 review. You can configure them to a certain setup. So if you want the car to be in its most comfortable setup, you can save it to the M1 button, and if you want it in the most aggressive setup, you can save it to the M2 button. And you can do everything in between. So maybe you want M1 to be the hardcore version but with DSC on, and the M2 with DSC off. You just configure it in the car system. The instrument cluster is different as well compared to the regular M cars. As you can see, it has a top speed of 330 kilometers an hour, and the right side has a tachometer that goes all the way up to 8,000 RPM, but the red line is at 70 to 50 RPM, and it has a slightly different design. You also have the M menu over here, and you can configure all of them, configure the M1 button, the M2 button, as I told you. And you also have M modes. So basically you can switch to sport mode, normal, comfort mode, and track mode using this M button here. Road, sport, and track. But for the track option, you need to hold it because it turns off the stability control. So, you know, that's like a safety precaution. I love this gear shift knob. It looks really good. It's covered in leather, it looks absolutely brilliant, and the car is incredibly comfortable for an M model. I also like this Alcantara wrap on the pillars and on the roof. So yeah, really liking this design. I am not a big fan of the rear end design, but overall I can live with it. I mean, I like the front end, I like the profile of the car, I like the interior, so I can live with that rear end. Now let's take it for a spin, and I'm gonna film myself driving this car on some curvy mountain roads. So here we are driving the X6 M Competition on some mountain roads. I'm gonna close the window so you can hear me speak. So as I said, I'm gonna enter the sport mode. I'm not gonna drive too fast because these are pretty narrow roads, so I might have an issue, you know, with cars coming from the other lane and so on. But let's talk about the driving feel. So the car comes with 21-inch wheels up front and 22-inch wheels in the back, and you can definitely feel it. Even though the suspension is really supple and soaks up bumps really nicely, you can feel the lack of rubber in between the rim and the asphalt, and it feels a bit harsh going over potholes. It does feel a bit harsh sometimes, but at the same time it does keep the weight of the car really well in check. The steering is rather numb, to be honest. It feels a bit it doesn't offer a lot of feedback, if I'm being totally honest, and the brake has a weird feel too, but you can adjust the brake pedals sensitivity in the system's sub menus. You might hear a squeaking from time to time, and that comes from the seat somehow. I don't know what that is. I think it's because of the ventilation. I had the ventilation turned on. Something might be wrong over there. So the seats are really comfortable. They offer incredible side support, and the car feels comfortable as well. As I said, going over potholes might send some jolts into the cabin, but they are not that bad. Now the engine under the hood, you might know it. It's the same power plant you find on the M5 and M8 models these days. It made its first appearance in the M5, the F90 model. So this being a competition model, it has the same engine as the competition M5, of course. Compared to the normal M5 or the normal engine, the competition version has 25 extra horsepower. That's it. So you get 600 on the normal X6 M, you get 625 on the competition model. The torque remains the same at 750 or 553 pound-feet of torque if you're from the US. And the pedal response is absolutely brilliant because these engines, the S63 engines, have the two turbos mounted in the inside of the V, close to the intake, so that the pedal response is sharper than on other V8s. And the 4.4 liter twin turbo on this car definitely rises to the challenge. It feels incredibly meaty and pulls like a freight train. I reached 100 miles per hour earlier by accident, I swear to God. I'm not even trying to brag. It was simply by accident. I pressed the gas pedal a bit more than normally. I didn't even go all out, and when I looked into the head-up display, I saw 100 miles per hour. It was insane. And you don't really feel the speed in this car because it's very well sound insulated, so it does sneak up on you. Speaking of the head-up display, when you enter the sport mode or the track mode, it gets really huge. I don't know if you can see it through this point of view, but it is absolutely huge. And it shows you the speed limit, and the rev counter. Once you get close to the red line, it shows you like the shift point. It looks really good. The instrument cluster also changes when you enter sport mode. As you can see, it has like two rev counters, one to the left, one to the right. It shows you the speed right down the middle and the gear you're in. Looks really good. Actually, I think it's an improvement over the standard display, but I think they could have done a bit better. Now, in terms of driving, the car does keep its weight in check rather well. The pedal response is good. There's no sign of understeer, and you have two driving modes for the MX Drive system. Now, the MX Drive system is basically the same as the one found on the M5. You have the same 8-speed automatic gearbox, and it's the same all-wheel drive system. On the M5, you can decouple the front axle and send all the power to the rear axle. You can't do that in SUVs. However, as I recently found out, that is just a software lock, and some people managed to unlock their full potential, the car's full potential, and they managed to send all the power to the rear axle, turning their SUVs into proper tire burning machines. Now, I don't know how many people would be willing to do that, how many people actually want that option. I think an SUV should be all-wheel drive. It's not mandatory, but you know, it should be, since you're riding so high anyway. But what I can tell you is that the MX Drive system does send a lot of its power to the rear axle, and most of the time it does feel like a rear-driven car. It's absolutely phenomenal. It does a brilliant job at switching the power in between axles and helping you be as fast as possible. I know that sounds weird because I'm only doing like 60 kilometers an hour right now, but trust me, this car can do a lot of things right. It's really weird to be driving this fast in such a tall car, but it does feel nice, to be honest, because you actually feel like you can do anything you want to with it. It's quite an interesting sensation. You really shouldn't be able to do all these things with a car of this size, but you can with the X6 M, and this is actually pretty brilliant. And as I said, it's really fast. Now, I would mention the fuel consumption, but I don't think it's relevant. This car will just burn as much fuel as it wants to. The tires do a great job at gripping. These are Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's, a special mix for SUVs, and they are incredibly grippy, especially after you get some heat in them. They are incredibly good at keeping this 2.4-ton monster on the road and not skidding into some ravine somewhere. As you can see, the road cleared up, but I am just too afraid to actually gas this car and start throwing it around because the road is very narrow. So you guys will have to do with, you know, legal speeds. But overall, I really enjoy this car. It is really good, both in the corners and especially in a straight line. I've seen reviews and drag races done with the X6 M Competition against cars like the Lamborghini Urus, which is supposed to be the fastest SUV on the market today. I'm talking about internal combustion engine cars. Don't get me started on the Tesla nonsense. So the Urus is supposed to be the fastest, and this car actually beat the Urus, at least on the quarter mile. It's a really fast car. You can actually tune it to make a lot more power. What disappoints me though is the sound. The car doesn't really have like a great soundtrack, which is a shame. I mean, it sounds good, but it could have used a bit more volume. Now I understand why it's not louder, because starting last year BMW was forced to install an OPF filter, an auto particulate filter, on its petrol engines, especially on the bigger ones in Europe. So this being a European model, it has that OPF installed. I don't know if the American versions where this OPF system is not mandatory, I don't know if they don't have the filter. But it's quite possible that they sound a bit different. I didn't get to drive one. This is a European version. So do with that info what you will. But look at this view. So I just wanted to let you guys hear the engine for a bit. This has basically been my review of the BMW X6 M Competition. I know it's a bit atypical. I wanted to change the pace a bit, and I wanted to give you like a first look at how this car feels from right behind the wheel. That's why I wanted to film in a POV style. This said, don't forget to like, share, and of course subscribe. Dislike if you didn't like the video. Until next time, take care of yourselves and don't forget to feed your passions. Ciao.